Hi guys, this is the last video in this Lightroom tutorial series, and well, I covered most of the basics, the foundation of the program, and if you follow along, you probably, and you practice this, you're probably getting comfortable with Lightroom. And like I said, you can do a lot. And I will say that most of my edits I only do in Lightroom. But sometimes Lightroom limits me. There are, like stuff like luminosity mask, and then when I need to remove something from a photo, a person or something, then I usually need to open the file in Photoshop, and being an Adobe product, both Lightroom and Photoshop, it makes it very easy. And I would say the biggest strength, besides of being an amazing program, Lightroom, its biggest strength is the big brother is Adobe Photoshop. So what I'm gonna do now in this video, I'm gonna edit a file in Lightroom. I already edited it, but I need to remove stuff from it. And it's too complicated for Lightroom to deal with that. So I'm gonna open the file in Photoshop and then throw it back into Lightroom. So now we are in Lightroom, and what I want to do is, this is a very busy photo. I don't particularly like it, but there are some things we can do to help it. For example, this edge here, the left edge is very busy, and I think if I would crop the file a little bit to here or so, that would calm the photo down somewhat. And ideally this should have more, this eyes here to the left, the space from the eyes to the edge is a bit small, but that's not what I'm focusing on in this video. I'm focusing on this iceberg here. If I wanted to remove this eyes here, to make it simpler, to make the scene more relaxed, I could try to do the spot removal tool in Lightroom, but I'm not going to do that. It's too big. It's too complicated. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to right click on the thumbnail. I'm going to select Edit In and Adobe Photoshop. It's 2020 in my case. If you have the newest Photoshop, you will get that also. What this means, this is not an error per se. It says this version of Lightroom may require Photoshop Camera Raw plugin version 12.0 for full compatibility. That basically means that I haven't updated my Camera Raw plugin in Photoshop. It's no big deal. I'm just going to open anyway and see how it goes. So here we are in Photoshop. And there are many ways to do this. What I'm going to try to do first, I'm going to select the lasso tool. I'm just going to draw around the eyes like this. And I'm going to go to Edit and Fill. I'm going to have a Content Aware selected here. And just normal blending mode, and okay. Let's see how that goes. So, if you are very critical, you might be able to find something, some remains of it. What I would do now, I would maybe take the stamp tool and make this brush somewhat bigger, Down with the opacity a little bit. I don't need all this opacity. Take a sample, and then I would just clone out the problem areas. But this doesn't have many problem area. You can see a little bit, but I'm not gonna, completely fix this now. This is not about stamping. This is about moving between programs. So now the ice is gone, and what I do, I'll just press File and Save. And then it should be opened in Lightroom, because it opens it from Lightroom, then it makes a new file and it saves it in the same folder and automatically imports it into Lightroom. For me, for example, I never save to a web format or something like that from Photoshop. I always save it, I reopen it in Lightroom, because I like to have all my files in a catalog. So, and I find the export option in Lightroom really nice. It has everything. It has watermark. You can do different sizes. You can do different sizes at once. You can do a lot of things which you cannot do in Photoshop, and make virtual copies if you need one size for Instagram and then another size for print or Facebook, or if you need to treat you want to convert it to black and white stuff. There are a lot of stuff. A lot of reasons why I choose to export everything from Lightroom. I find it easier. So now we have this shot here, ready to, if you need some extra edits. But keep in mind that now, because we threw it in Photoshop, we had to make a pixel file. And now this is a TIFF file. It's not a raw format anymore. So you lost that. By going into Photoshop, you lost that. So what I usually do, I always do everything I can in Lightroom. And when I reach the Lightroom limitation, when I reach the software limitation, then I go to Photoshop. I don't go it early. I don't do it like if I need to remove this ice. I don't start with that, because then I need to go to Photoshop, and then I'm coming back with a pixel file and everything. I lose the ability to edit non-destructively. So I lose the dynamic range that a raw file has. But but make no mistake about that. An uncompressed TIFF file has a lot. It has so much more than, for example, a JPEG file. So you're still good. You just need to know this, that as soon as you export it back into Lightroom from Photoshop, it's no longer a raw file, it's a pixel file. So that's it for this video, short and sweet, and that concludes this series. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from this. And I will do more of these videos. Now, I ended this video by throwing something into Photoshop, and Photoshop is a monster. And I will make some tutorials for you from Photoshop on how I use it. That's coming up. I don't know exactly when, but soon. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.